Hello and welcome to Web3 TV. My name is Lisa Amnegard, and today I'm reporting live from the 7th edition of the Finex conference held here in Dubai. Joining me right now is Jack Maddock from Row, a fintech company from New York. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Glad to have you. We're glad to be here.
And you came all the way from New York to come here, so tell me a little bit, why did you decide to attend the Finex conference?
Yeah, I think there's lots of interesting speakers and companies that are here this week. Already yesterday there was some great talks, whether it's about democratizing finance in Africa or here in the UAE. It's really interesting to get different perspectives from across the globe.
And what is your perspective? You come from the US, which is very progressive in the fintech space, but what do you think about the UAE?
I think it's really interesting speaking to silver delegates here today. Being able to start from scratch here, having less of the legacy systems like we have in the US or in the UK, which I've worked previously. So even though fintech is pretty progressive in the US, the traditional banking system is still pretty tough. Still taking 1 to 3 days to make a payment, which maybe some parts of the Middle East don't have those restrictions.
Which is one of the most, I think that could be one of the things that people are frustrated about, that it takes just so much longer to do transactions, and that traditional financing has, let's say, more fees, and there are many things that the fintech industry is trying to change. So tell me a little bit more about Row and what kind of services you provide and what kind of bridge you're trying to fill.
Yeah, as you mentioned about fees, I previously worked at Wise where we were obsessed with fees, and then I've moved over to the US recently to work at Row. We offer business banking services, and what we're trying to do in terms of bridging the gap is look at not just actually making like great digital services, but also providing that human touch. We find that a lot of the fintechs in the space have moved into the AI space, which we leverage. But actually, if you're running a business, people want to still be able to speak to someone and reach out to someone, especially if all your funds or you've just raised, a Series A, Series B. You want to be able to pick up the phone and speak to someone if you need to, while also combining that with the great analytics and AI tools where you need it.
Yeah, I think that's something that many fintech companies have removed. There's no human element, and AI is sort of replacing the human element. So in what way are you using AI that enhances the services, aside from, let's say, the people working there?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of companies, especially in the US and out of the Bay Area on the West Coast, make mistakes here, where people want to still be in control of their finances. If you woke up tomorrow and your bank said, don't open your app, it's fine. I'm sure the first thing you'd do is probably ring up and ask what's going on with my money. So we want to ensure that users are still in the driver's seat. We can reduce that manual entry that the people don't want to do, whether that's, you've heard some speakers talk this week around whether it's making payments for their bills, and they don't want to have to do that manually. But I still want to be in control of my own finances, and especially if I'm running a business. And I've got employees that I want to make payroll to. If I'm going to automate that, I want to be the decision maker on what's automated and what strategic decisions are being made.
And you touched on a very important point there, because there are so many fintech companies opening now, and whether they're startups or some are more established. But I think it all comes down to one thing: trust. So how do you ensure that there's trust in your product?
Yeah, I think there's still a long way to go. I think the human element does really help. And I think, there's 3 experiences that users really remember. There's your first experience, your last experience, and then the best or worst in the middle. So if you make that first experience really delightful and, make it simple and feel trustworthy, you might find we see a lot of users who'll make start small and then build up with a fintech. And there are still those barriers. If you're raising money from a investment firm, they're probably still going to push you down some of those traditional banks that they've worked with 50, 60 years, maybe have traditional relationships with. But I think what you're seeing from the startup industry, especially in the UK and US, and over here as well, is that people are pushing more now to say, hey, I don't want to go to a Citibank, Chase Bank, Barclays that I used to work at. I want to actually work with a fintech because I'm a startup, I'm a tech-focused firm, and I don't want to have to go into a branch to do my finances.
Yes, it's changing that landscape. And also for fintech companies, is allowing them to maybe operate in more countries and places than they could previously operated in. So are you looking at the UAE, and if you are, what kind of services are you looking to provide?
Yeah, we're at the moment focused on the US. There's still our biggest competitor is still the big business banks here, and there is still a huge amount of opportunity. However, over in the UAE, it's really interesting to see the difference in approaches to the business banking space. You're hearing the amount of fintechs that are opening up every year here. The underbanked and the underserved across every region is really interesting and something I can really learn from.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all. Thank you.
And I'll be bringing you more interviews. My name is Lisa Amnegard, and you're watching Web3 TV.